Sziasztok, ez itt az SIA Podcast újabb adása, és hát ezúttal egy nagyon neves meghívottunk érkezett méghozzá Észak-Amerikából, pontosabban az Amerikai Egyesült Államokból. Barry Smith lesz a vendégünk, aki 7-szeres Stanley Kupa győztes edző, és hát emellett óriási tudás van mögötte, úgyhogy kérlek, engedjétek meg, bemutassam nektek Barryt. Barry, thank you very much for coming and being here together with us at this podcast, and welcome at the SIA.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the invitation to be here. So I have to thank Antal Elad for the invitation, and of course for Attila for having a chance for me to be on your podcast. So it's my pleasure to be here, and I'm learning as much as I'm trying to give.
Let's go a bit on the personal journey. And could you maybe share a memorable story from your early days in coaching?
Yeah, actually, I started coaching after I graduated from college.
This was in the 70s.
Yeah, and I stayed for one extra year to do a master's, what they call a master's program. And part of my master's program was to help coach both hockey and football. And I learned a little bit, but I didn't like football because I had a meeting every single night of doing film work. And so I thought, this is not fun. I like Saturdays where you play the game, but I don't like Monday through Thursday. So in hockey, it was more games and not as many meetings. So I thought, okay, let's try hockey. So I went to work at a prep school, a private school for, kids, I guess it was from 7th grade to grade 12, from 7 to 12. And it was a beautiful facility in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I was assistant coach in football, started the hockey program, and did some lacrosse coaching. And I liked it. And I was very lucky to go get a college job after 2 years. And I thought I was a good coach. But my first year of college coaching was very bad. I didn't have a good feel for how to work with the players. I was too young. And I didn't have a very good we didn't do very well.
A good feeling.
Yeah.
What helped you to go forward?
There was a tutoring, a chance to go to school during the summer in Russia. It was in Moscow. And I went with a university out of Montreal because U.S. couldn't go there, of course, at that time. So I went with the Canadian group. And I studied under a coach named Anatoly Tarasov. And Tarasov was the father of Russian hockey. And he did a lot of work off the ice, a tremendous lot of work off the ice that helped his players on the ice. So I learned what he was doing off the ice. We had a chance to work together. I was with other coaches, of course. So I was there for 3 weeks, maybe, I don't know, it was 3 or 4 weeks. And we studied and we watched and we had a chance to go on the ice. And so I took a lot of the fundamentals that he had back to my college team. And the players weren't too happy about all the off-ice exercises, but they did it. And all of a sudden we started getting good results. And I just kept, keep the same practices going and the same mentality of trying different things that I learned, especially on and off the ice. And we had success. And then the next year I went to Sweden and the same course. I took another 3-week course in Sweden. And it was at a school called Busern, which was a university outside Stockholm. And I befriended a gentleman named Arne Stromberg, who was a Swedish coach at that time. And I learned from different Swedish coaches what they were doing on the ice. So I studied there. And I brought back some more things to my college team to add to what we took from Russia. And we got even better results. So I was very lucky to have, 6 tremendous years there. And then I decided I wanted to learn more about European hockey. So Arne Stromberg fixed a team for me to coach up in northern Sweden. And I went there and worked for 2 seasons, and I had a great time. I mean, learning different culture. People were friendly for us. Swedish is easier because of English, as you know. Many people speak English. So it was quite easy. I tried to learn the language as well, and we had a very good time.
It's interesting that first you've been to Moscow, because I would think in that age of time, Russians and Americans are like this. And that they would not tell you about their secrets. So
it sort of was a sharing program. We had coaches with me from different college teams or pro teams, and they would share some of their ideas with the Russians as well. So there was sort of a sharing of ideas. I had nothing to offer because I was a student, really, but I learned from both sides.
So it was like sharing from both sides, not
A
just
little bit,
from
but
the Russian
mostly it
side.
came from Tarasov's group.
Okay. Who are your role models or mentors during your...
I was lucky as a college coach. There was many older college coaches, and they helped. We talked hockey, and they helped us at that time. And there was no like secrets. It's just a matter of sharing different mindsets. And then I was lucky to befriend Bob Johnson, who was a very well-known college coach, who became a professional coach as well, and coached USA Hockey for many years. So he befriended me. I worked with him in Pittsburgh. Scotty Bowman, who was my mentor. Scotty took me for my first job in Buffalo, the Buffalo Sabres. And from there, I worked with him in Buffalo and then in Pittsburgh. And then he took me to Detroit. And we're still friends and talk all the time. So I was very lucky.
So that's a long story.
Yeah,
basically.
long. It still goes on.
And a long friendship also. What lessons from your coaching career apply to the outside of the ring?
It's a good question.
Is there a lesson?
Yeah, there is. It's a good question. I think that you have to learn from losses. At first, it's like your mindset, oh, we lose, and you're upset all day long and you're, going to yell at the players. And no. Everything you do has to be evaluated. In other words, win or lose. Why did we lose? Understand how do we improve from there? Not just look at the problems you have, but look at things that we did well. You have to look at both sides. You have to have one lens here that sees what you did well and one lens here that sees what you have to fix. You can't just be one-sided.
From my side, I would say that let's forget about that. So you are not forgetting about that. You are looking on...
No, because if you don't understand why you lose, how are you going to fix it to win? There's certain reasons. Sometimes God wasn't with you. The hockey gods... it just didn't go. We were the better team, but it didn't go today.
Is there a hockey god?
There must be, because we've been very lucky. Thank you, God.
Okay. How does your youth hockey in different countries compare to your experience in North America? Because I guess that during your work in Sweden, for example, Norway, or maybe Russia as well, you've seen also the youth
Yes, I have.
teams. So
I think you try to learn from each place you go to, because every place has something positive. It's not just a negative, you know what I'm saying? And if you look at small details, I think details help you become a better coach, not just generalities. And I think fundamentals in all sports are very important. You don't have to do 10 things well, because you won't. Let's do 5 things great, and then we'll take care of the rest. Sometimes we try to fix everything. You have to be good at this, power play, penalty kill, face-offs, this. And all of a sudden you can't see the forest for the trees. You can't see anything because you have so much coming at you, especially as a coach. And those who have clarity and just simplify it are your better coaches.
Are you that kind of coach that brings the youth players into the professional level and building it into the team, or you prefer to work with what you have?
Good question. I think you have to identify where you're at, and you have to embrace where you're at, and you have to understand what you have. So if you're a good coach, you don't say, before you even see who your players are, we're going to play this way, because maybe you don't have the ability to play this way. So a good coach is going to say, here's what we have. This is what we do best. So here's how we're going to try to play to help what we have to become the better team we have. Not, oh, let's copy them because they won. I don't have the same players they have. So how can we copy them and have success? You don't. You copy them, but you're not as good as them because you don't have what they had. So I think a good coach understands who he has that year, because every year changes. And in hockey, because it's such a long season, it's one of the longer seasons for sports, that your team, if I just gave you an analogy, it's like an amoeba. It changes shapes. It's here today, it's there tomorrow, it goes this way the next day. So it's constantly changing because it's such a long duration. We're tired, we're not tired, we lost, we won. It's all different mentalities. So a good coach can sense or feel his team. You know what I'm saying? He understands where they're at today. Oh, let's change practice because I know it's not going to work today. That's a good coach. Not, we're going to do this. I don't care. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. You know, we'll just keep pounding away. That doesn't work anymore.
I've read somewhere that during that time when you've been at Detroit, I think Detroit did not won the Stanley Cup for like 20 years or something like this. And then you bring something like a left wing.
Left wing block, yeah.
Yeah. Where did it come from or how it happened? Because
yeah, that's a good question.
As I understood, that was the secret or the key.
Well, what happened was I had started working in Pittsburgh with Bob Johnson as a coach, and I was his assistant coach with other assistants. And Bob Johnson was a very positive, optimistic coach. He was great. Every day is a good day. In fact, in North America, there's a lot of signs said it's a great day for hockey. And that's from Bob Johnson. Like every day was, let's go. We got our skates today. It's beautiful. He was just a very optimistic, positive type coach. And it was fun to work with him. But he got sick and he couldn't coach the second year. We won the first year, and the second year he got sick and he passed away actually that year. So Scotty Bowman was working with Pittsburgh at that time as a player development, I think, and he came in to coach, which he took over the same team, a little different mentality, and we won the second year. And we almost should have won the third year. We had a really good team. And then I went to Pittsburgh from there. Detroit from Pittsburgh. We got to Detroit, and we had a very good offensive group that was put together by previous coaches and managers. So they're there. And these players were very good offensively, and we could win 5-3, 6-4, 7-5. We just outscored the opposition. We didn't play defense against them. We just scored more goals than they did. However, when we got in the playoffs, we lost. And why did we lose in the playoffs? Because we couldn't play good defense. We didn't have a mindset to win 2-1. Or even 1-0. There's no chance we could play 1-0 because we have to score more goals. So the next summer, Scotty said we have to change some players. I went to Sweden to work with some friends, from the previous years. And of course, we had a bigger rink in Sweden, as you know. It's the European rink versus North American. So some things work, some things don't. But I was just trying to look at different ways to play to help us play defense. So it wasn't me. I was just watching other groups that had played different ways. And I thought, because of our team, the way our team was structured, that if we played a left wing lock, or whatever you want to call it, it would be successful because we had very good left defensemen. We had Paul Coffey, who was a tremendous player, great skater. Nick Lidstrom, they're both Hall of Fame players, were both left defensemen. So I thought, I came to Scotty, we sat down, I said, Scotty, if we put our left defenseman in the middle of the ice, okay, and we put our right defenseman on this side, and we put a forward on this side, we could play. It would be hard to enter because we have 3 lanes covered. Our best skater has a chance to get the pucks on both sides. He'd be first and make the better play. And if we put our centers in the middle, who are our next best players, we could have our center and best defenseman always close to each other to make a good play. So we tried it, and
it worked.
It worked, yeah. But it didn't work because of the system. You know what I'm saying? We won because of the players. A system never wins. It's the players who win inside the system. They execute it and they do it.
What advice would you give to young players from Säcklerland who dream of an international career?
I think one thing you have to understand or know that your facilities here are as good as anything in the world. Okay?
Okay.
So if you have facilities that are that good, you can do anything you want inside that. If you have a place which has no facilities or very little, you're going to have to do all kinds of things to make up for what you don't have. So I think your people, first of all, have to embrace and understand what you have here. You have tremendous off ice. You have a beautiful rink. You have coaches. You have ice time. You have practices. You have everything you need to get better. It's up to you now to push yourself or have that passion to become the best. If I say you have to practice today and you say, oh, not again. Or if I say, okay, guys, you're free tomorrow, and you practice, there's a big difference in those two players. Who's going to get better? It's easy. The guy who says, I just want to practice. I'm going to do it on my own. I love it. Not, oh, another one. I have to go again.
So you think that the infrastructure that we have here, it's completely enough?
More than enough.
Okay.
I can tell you where some players came from. You won't believe what they had.
Is there a receipt to become an NHL player, or there is no receipt?
No.
Just work?
No, it's not just work, because work is sort of identified as, you know, how hard you go do something. It's execution. It's to do it the best, not just do it. There's a difference of I have to do it or I want to do it the right way. So there's a big difference between that. And fundamentals are really important. Certain fundamentals you have to have if you're going to become a good player. And then the biggest thing I find that I'm trying to teach, and this is what my quest is now, my last 2 seasons and my 3rd season now, I'm working everywhere, trying to help coaches, and I'm learning at the same time, how do we improve hockey sense? How do we improve hockey IQ? Why do I think that's important? Because I told you, every NHL team wants to have hockey sense or hockey IQ in their top 5. We had it as number 2. That's how important it is.
Is there a difference when you won first time the Stanley Cup and when you won the 7th time?
There's the difference, because actually, as a coach, actually on the bench, I was only 5 times. It was 5 teams. When I was in Chicago, I was doing player development, which means I was working with players, but not particularly on the bench for those games. So I was not on the bench or part of the team at that sense to be making decisions about who goes on the ice or whatever. I was, you know, a person observing. And maybe I'd talk to the coaches afterwards or before, but I was an observer. So there's a difference, I think, of that mentality.
And difference also in proudness, maybe? That you...
Yeah, absolutely. You feel, if you're in that team and on that bench, and, you know, there's a different feel than watching from above. There is. Am I proud of both? For sure, because Chicago guys were fantastic. And it was a great organization to work with. And I was on the ice with them. I coached with them twice. You know what I'm saying? I went down to help, and then I stayed for a period of time, whatever. But I was not on the bench for those 2 games. So there was a difference in that. I would say to you, you have to appreciate a hockey player versus another sportsman, because to win the Stanley Cup is probably the most difficult trophy to win. And the reason being is you have to play such a long duration of playoffs, the number of games you have to play, and the physicality it is. It's extremely mentally and physically draining to play that possible 27 games or 28 games.
And how is the feeling when you...
It's almost exhaustion, to be honest with you. I mean,
the first minute, I would
like the jubilation is fantastic. I mean, because it's such a special award that the jubilation is, and it's such a feeling of togetherness, because you don't win because of one player. It was just a whole group. And even the players who don't play that game put their equipment on, as you know, and they go on the ice to have their number and whatever to be part of it, because they were part of it. They just didn't play those particular games for whatever reason.
When did you realize that you won the Stanley Cup? In the first minute, or you need some days for it?
I was scared to death the first time we won, because we were playing in Minnesota. I was with Bob Johnson, and it was game 6. We were up 3-2 in games, and we're playing in Minnesota. And after 2 periods, we were up 6-0. And all we have to do is play one more period to win our first Stanley Cup. And
you were scared.
My mind was thinking opposite, not of how great this is, but can we screw this up? Is there some way they can score 7 goals and beat us? So I asked the equipment, one of the team managers, I said, excuse me, I didn't want to make it too loud. I said, excuse me, has anybody ever lost a 6-goal lead after 2 periods? He goes, no one that's lived. I said, well, thanks. So now I'm thinking, okay, if they score every 5 minutes, we'll still win. You know, like I was trying to think the opposite way. You're so scared now, because instead of saying, wow, this is so easy, no, I don't want to screw it up. That was my mindset. And Bob Johnson came in and he said, what do we say to the players? And I said, Coach, I don't want to go in the room. I don't want to jinx this team. There's something going on, but I don't want to say anything. I don't want to go in. Can we just stay out here? He goes,
you didn't go in?
He made me go in. So he went in, and Instead of saying a long thing about what we have to do this, we have to, he said, boys, whatever you're doing, just keep doing it. Good luck. And out the door we went. And we won 8-0. So how's that for coaching? You don't say anything.
You've been assistant coach for such a long time. Why not a head coach?
My mentality
because I guess that you had some offers.
My mentality is more of I'm a better assistant coach. If I was to work on vehicles, I'd be a good mechanic to work inside the engine and make things. So it was better doing that than talking to the press and talking to TVs and all that. And my personality wasn't such that I thought I'd be able to be a big head coach. I was better to be the assistant and do the things I did best.
You mentioned the press. I know that in the US or in Canada, in North America, basically, the media, it's so much together with the hockey. I mean, together with NHL. Basically, it's based on media. Is it hard to handle that pressure as a coach?
Tremendous. It takes a tremendous amount of time. And more now than ever before because of social media. So I like to just coach and do the technical things and have the practices and that part, but the press takes all your energy. You have to say the right things. You have to be very careful. You can't show emotion sometimes about your disappointment or your jubilation. You have to be careful what you say about the next opponent. And you have to meet with them before practice sometimes, and then after practice and before games. It takes a lot of your energy and time. It's not easy to be a head coach, I'm telling you.
Barry Smith volt a mai vendégünk, és hát köszönöm szépen a figyelmet nektek, neki pedig köszönöm, hogy itt volt velünk együtt, és hát kövessétek továbbra is az SIA podcastet, hiszen érdekesebbnél érdekesebb sztorikkal és történetekkel jövünk, nem beszélve a meghívottakról.